Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ain Soup. I'm excited to have our guest on today, Mr. Quentin Carter. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing wonderful. On the show, we talk so much about energy and life and the universe. And I'm so excited to be able to dive into the physical aspects of energy with you and what companies such as yours are doing to really help the world. Tell us about EcoLife.
Yeah. So we are building basically software for the power grid. So basically, our new advanced technology helps the power grid in this new energy surge we have with all the electric vehicles and AI and data centers. There's a big surge in energy. So by 2030, there's supposed to be like the biggest peak energy in history. So a lot of developing countries, island nations, even U.S. cities are getting ready for this and trying to prepare for this energy surge. So our company was working on this actually a little earlier before a lot of outages started happening. So we were able to kind of hop on this earlier. And with a physics background, I think like you said, we talked about that before. The energy space is a great place to be at right now.
So when you say energy surge, can you break that down a little bit? Because I don't really know what that is. I'm sure others, a lot of our audience are going to know what the energy surge is you're talking about.
Yeah. So basically, like peak, they call it peak load. But basically, what that is there's certain times of the day, depending on region and geography, where there's a surge in energy. So maybe like I'm in Atlanta. So for like Georgia, I have some insiders at Georgia Power, and their biggest is before everybody goes to work and after everybody right after everybody gets off work. So around like 6 to 7 p.m. there's like a big surge in Atlanta, and then around I guess 7 to 9. There's big surges too. So people are getting ready for work, waking up, things of that nature. So those are what you call those energy surges. And then with more and more EVs, and then trying to keep up with the AI race and data centers, I mean, trying to handle the households and the data centers, because data centers they take up a lot of energy, like an amazing amount. And they're building more. So that's kind of what that means. It's like this energy surge. It's just like we are in a time in history where energy is more important than ever. Yeah.
What are the effects of the energy surge on people in general? I mean, I understand that that's probably going to slow down our ability to use technology, but are
hmm
there any negative effects towards people, such as like electromagnetic frequencies or anything that's happening in the air around us?
yeah. So climate impact, of course, especially if like we're working with electric companies because their alternative, if they have the money, is to just buy more and more plants, and we really don't want that, because that's really bad for the planet. So like our software, we have a feature where we also help them integrate like solar and battery and stuff of that nature. So integrating those renewable energy sources so we don't have to continue to just add more and more plants. Yeah.
What's going on with the other countries, though? Because you're also mentioning how your software has positive impacts on other countries. How how's this energy surge affecting maybe third world countries or countries that are less developed?
Yeah, so we're actually working in third world country right now. I was able to meet like, the government over there, like some of the ministers and things, and we had a good conversation. And their concern is not only do they think they're going to get behind in technology, they're already like seeing it. They're having outages, bad outages. Some of the nations that we've been working with are having constant outages. We've even had people reach out to us, asking like, "Oh, we heard the work that you guys are doing over here. We're looking for, some solutions to stay ahead as well." So a thing with developing countries is they are really behind in technology already. So with this energy surge, it seems like they're going to get even more behind, and it's just like everyone is going to be more advanced because with AI and things of that nature, and they're just kind of falling behind because they don't have the resources to be able to advance their infrastructure, modernize their infrastructure. Yeah.
So, AI is really big term right now, big topic.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are the future advancements in AI, and why is that so detrimental to this energy surge and crisis that we're headed towards?
Yeah. I personally believe that I use AI in my everyday workflow. Um, it helps me be like 20, 30x more productive than ever before. So I personally believe it's one of the, I mean, it's probably one of the best technologies in like history, probably up there with the internet. And I mean, not even just that, like intellect, PhD intellect is $20 a month now. So it all comes down to, are you asking the right questions? And if you are asking the right questions, you'll probably get the right answers. I mean, ChatGPT is like 90-95% accurate at this point, so, and I think it's only going to get better with researchers having breakthroughs and things like that. I definitely think that this thing is gonna continue. It's gonna be a very, very big technology. I mean, it already is, but like, I don't think people understand. We're like on the precipice. Like we're still at the beginning. Like we're still kind of early, So we're just seeing the early effects, and it's already kind of crazy. I mean, I'm seeing software engineers, be automated, and things of that nature. So, and this is the beginning, So it's definitely for futurists like me and like myself, it's exciting, but for some, it's a little scary as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I use AI and ChatGPT pretty much seamlessly with
Yeah,
business.
yeah. I use
It,
2 to 3 at once, man. I'm like, like, yeah. It's crazy.
yeah, I do the exact same thing, man. Like the other day, I was sitting down with somebody, and they're like, how'd you do all these things so quickly?" Like, well, first I created a bot to think like me, and then after it thought like me, it was able to pick up some of the holes and some of the issues in my own thought processes. So, with utilizing AI and the direction that your company is headed, in what ways have you used ChatGPT in order to progress the world and our society utilizing this software?
Yeah. So I mean, so um, funny enough, the energy industry is very dated. It's a lot of older, probably like 40 plus, 50 plus type of industry leaders. So I'm seen as like a baby in that industry. But I think that also leads to creativity and innovation, right? So a big thing with AI is like people speak on sustainability, like, we're going to destroy the planet with AI and this and that, but I kind of think on the more optimistic side, like now we could probably have more clean technology breakthroughs than ever before using AI, So I kind of my thought process in the sense of I've explained it to people is in a sense, it might balance out because the clean tech breakthroughs that we will have using this advanced technology, will balance out the surge and the impact that it's also doing as well. So, or at least that's my optimistic perspective of it. Yeah.
As we talk about clean technology and clean energy and utilizing AI in order to progress society, I don't know if I consider myself a futurist. I at my core, I'm a spiritualist and a scientist. But with that being said, what type of fringe or futuristic technologies do you foresee being able to be created by AI, and specifically with companies like yours, EcoLife?
Yeah. So I think EcoLife is a perfect example of like just what AI can do. Like I'm not a I'm becoming an expert in the field pretty quickly, but I haven't been in the field for 5, 10, 15 years. But just with this technology, I've been able to do research, extremely advanced research, that probably would have took me a couple years of school and things like that, those extra years that take up a lot of time. And in my personal opinion, I think that kind of kills the young innovation inside a scientist and a technologist, so being able to kind of have a PhD professor talking to me all the time is like the greatest advisor ever, right? And as long as we're fact checking, of course, I definitely big on fact checking. I'm not big on hallucinations and things, but as long as you're fact checking and you're using it to like improve your workflow, improve the way in which you think and learn. I mean, it's like I honestly believe you anybody could like be able to build a company or anything like that, and that was never possible before. So at this point in time, AI is making that process possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, man. I think that anybody that, as you said earlier, asks the right questions, and you can even ask AI how to ask it better questions, which is crazy to
Right.
me. But
And I think I like to tell people is like that's something you just can't teach. Like you really can't teach somebody how to ask an intellectual question like that. I think that's just like the basis of intelligence is like being able to ask the right questions, being curious, right? Like you just said, you can ask ChatGPT how to ask it better questions, but that's something that you have to think of, right? Like you don't some person may another random person that's not into technology, may not be a scientist, wouldn't even think of doing that, so. And I think that also opens up more opportunity for jobs, like people that can just teach, okay, this is how you kind of ask better questions, this is how you improve your workflow and things like that by using AI.
yeah, prompt writing has definitely become a pretty big thing. Something I'm currently working on right now.
Yes.
For the audience, is I'm working on creating more advanced AI commands that I can send out to the audience so people can have access to pretty much a private corner of your own mind. We have these subconscious tendencies, and I think what holds people back from following their dreams, such as starting their own business, tends to be like trauma and other subconscious issues and lack of worthiness. And I find that across the board with all entrepreneurs, regardless if you're just starting out or if you have billions of dollars. It's so interesting to me, these billionaires who still feel this sense of unworthiness. It's crazy. But, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm actually working on prompt writing. You mentioned something that I find really fascinating when you were talking about having the intellect to be able to ask certain questions in the first place, and then being able to have a PhD level intellect in your corner, in your room. In what ways has that been just not just valuable for you, but for you to share that with others?
Yeah, yeah. So um I've been working a lot, so I probably don't share too much with others. But for me personally, I mean, it's amazing because I've always been that kid like that was in the back of the class trying to do something that was a lot more advanced than the unit in the class and things of that nature. So being able to ask those questions and not have someone tell me like that's a stupid question or that's not what we're working on, that's not what we're talking about. So like kind of feeding my curiosity. I mean that to me it's like it's amazing. Like I it's everything I've asked for at that point because you basically have like you said this professor in your pocket at all times to answer any question and it's only going to get more advanced. So that's the scary part, or hopefully at least.
So it's so interesting because I feel like we're very similar in that sense. What's been I guess the most fringe or outlandish question you asked, and also what's been the most unique answer you've gotten?
I've been doing a lot of like research. So in my research questions, actually, I try not to give away too many of my prompts, but I'll give away one. Um, is that I'll ask AI kind of to so in your original prompt, I'll say what I want it to do, like with the answer that I want it to ask, and then I'll ask it I'll tell it how I want it to answer the question. So like I'll ask the question and then I'll tell it this is how I want you to answer the question. So if I want to do, if I want you to cross check with, a web search on all the PhD, papers in that industry or that sector, things of that nature, I think that's a unique way. I'm not sure. Maybe there's somebody else that does that as well, but I think that may be one unique thing that I do when I'm prompting is I'll ask a question and then I'll also prompt it how I want it to answer the question too.
That's interesting. So I do something very similar. What I've been doing lately is creating different personas. So I have these different
Ah,
bots, And the age-old question: if you could sit down with anybody in the world and have a conversation, who would it be?
Hmm.
Well, most of those people have written books, so I'll just tell the AI, create a persona based off of this person. They are
Mm,
an expert on this individual. They know everything about this topic and everything about their background, their history. So that way I can go and talk to that person. So I've
mm,
been able to have, and obviously still a simulation, right? It's still an AI, so we take that with a grain of salt. But I've had conversations with the spiritual individuals as well as tech leaders, as well as professors that I want to ask that professor or specific person a question.
mm,
Try it with somebody like Nikola Tesla, right? I want
right.
to talk to Tesla, so I want you to be an expert on everything, Nikola. And it's the responses you get is, if you've ever read if their work,
Mm,
it's almost seamless. It's how I would imagine they would have answered that. And in
what?
doing so, I've gotten these crazy, crazy responses on things. For instance, I was asking about, I'm really into particle physics and quantum theory.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I was asking questions about that. And I was like, oh, so the biggest issue we have with everything is always energy, right? So I was talking about how can we structure molecules. Um, if you could take a pinpoint and actually move a single molecule, how could we do that? And when I ended up breaking that down with the AI, and it was just really, really fascinating. Have you ever had any experiences where you asked a question that was so far out there and you got an answer that was in theory possible, but the limitations of our current technology in the world just didn't make it feasible?
I think I'm trying to remember because I literally I'm doing research all day long. So, but and you can cut this part out if you want, but I'm I have to think on that one a little bit. Give me some time because I do ask a lot of interesting questions and I do get a lot of interesting answers. It probably was on the new paper that I'm working on. Um, and this isn't these are just theories. They aren't proven, of course, or at least not yet. But I've been talking to it about like emergent space time. Like kind of in a sense of space time and um, I kind of want to go in depth, but I want to make it simple. But basically, emergent space time means that like the space time continuum isn't like a foundational thing of the universe. It's emerging. It's an emerging thing. So kind of spinning out some of those ideas and things like that, you get very interesting answers. But I think a very very good thing that they're doing is starting to tell you things it doesn't know. So it isn't making up things it's getting to the point where I guess it's not hallucinating as much as anymore and it's telling you, hey, I don't know this, so you probably should do this and do this to, get a better answer or something like that, which I think is amazing because you also have people who use this technology and they don't really know how it works, so they take its word as truth, so that's a really really a great thing. But to kind of talk about what you just brought up, which I think is literally fascinating, is I watched a video a while back of Steve Jobs, like in 1990 something, early 1990, maybe like late 1980s, and he was like on a panel, and he was like, he basically said exactly what you're doing. And he's like, these computers one day, you'll be able to talk to Nikola Tesla. You'll be able to, speak to the greatest minds ever. Like, I think that's what these computers will do. So the fact that in 2025, that's like what we're doing, and he's gone. It's like that's to me, that's just amazing. Like, like how do you know that? Like that's just like intellect. Being able to kind of pick up on patterns and see and have that vision. I mean, it's just amazing. It kind of speaks on why he is who he is.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I have so many other questions about space time because I do find that fascinating as well. And I think that the construct of our universe, I don't want to say that we've been misled. I would say that our understanding in the universe is very infantile, and the way that we teach it, especially at um, a school level, like a elementary school, high school, general education level, is fairly inaccurate. We don't even talk about the curvature of time really and the curvature of space, you know, and it's not until you get into the PhD or graduate school levels that you really dive into that. But let's leave that alone a little bit because I would lose too many people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why I try to keep it simple because you get on a tangent. Now you're talking about theoretical stuff and yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely all about that, man. I think that with the immersive technology and just where our society is headed as a collective, there's so much that I think people are overlooking when it comes to AI, when it comes to what we can really be using it for. It's so funny to me. I was having a conversation with someone the other day about we're talking about trauma and healing, which is something we talk about a lot on the show, and what I told them was, you know, you could sit down with the AI and just ask it personal questions and ask it to respond to you as if, like, pick a therapist, any therapist, all therapists. Tell it to read the, oh my goodness, I can't think of what it's called right now. There's a book on all the psychological disorders. Can't think of what it's called. And tell it that it's an expert in this. How do I get past this issue? How do I get past this trauma? How do I get through this particular situation? And then you can have these different breakthroughs. There, as you said earlier, being in school and asking these questions that were, some people would think that they're dumb, you know, but it's just so far advanced and so far ahead of everybody else in the class that it kind of comes off as nonsensical. There are
Hmm.
no dumb questions in the world. And then there are no dumb questions when you go talk to the AI. You
Yeah,
know,
and that
how did you go ahead?
no, I was just saying that, and that's great. That's what I love about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, how did you get to a place to where you felt comfortable not just talking to the AI, because that's one thing, you're by yourself, but you started taking those ideas and those concepts to build a company, to carry it on to the future, to share it with people. How did you get to a place where you felt comfortable doing those things?
Yeah, I think it's essentially because, and I've as you start to progress in a field and you're young, right? You start to get a little backlash and things like that, and some people think that I'm letting the AI think for me. I think that's the biggest misconception is that everybody's using it as this thing that's thinking for them. It's like, no, 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 no. AI can be the greatest teacher ever. Like, I was always the student who learned a little differently, thought a little differently. Like I've been interested in particle physics since I was 14, but I didn't have anyone around me to, kind of have PhD level intelligence to be able to talk to me about these things so I can learn them the way in which I learn. Because I think that's one big thing too is that these neurodivergent individuals like myself, we also learn differently, but we're able to figure out, okay, this is the way we learn. So this is the way it needs to be. This is the way the concept needs to be introduced to us so we can understand it better. But it's hard to get a professor to understand that. Like how, it's hard to get a professor to understand the way in which you think so they can teach you that way. I mean, you can do that. So being able to use AI to learn new concepts at an extremely fast level, I think is like the biggest advantage ever. And you kind of touched on it, which is an amazing advantage and a disadvantage for some people, is that it's at this point it's becoming all about the ideas. It's like I think AI is going to get to a point to it's like who can outthink the next person. So you have the people who are letting AI think for you, and then you have the people who are out thinking others with AI, and that's two totally different worlds. I think I'm in the tech scene a lot, and I talk to a lot of them. And I think one thing I heard is they say that there you have a group of people who AI is in a sense making dumber, and then you have, or I don't want to say dumber, but kind of lowering their intelligence because they're using it to think for them, and then you have these people who are using AI to literally make them smarter, at a rate where it was never before. So if you're just willing to sit down and just really dig in and, kind of do the research and ask the questions, I mean, you can get a year's worth of work done, I think, in a month. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so interesting. One of my favorite things that I shared this with someone else. I don't usually use this trick, but it helps. If there's a concept that you don't understand, and this is for anybody that perhaps you're listening to this conversation and you're thinking, this is way too advanced for me. If there's a concept about anything in life you don't understand, you can ask the AI to explain to you as if they're talking to a child,
Yeah,
and they'll take that exact same concept and explain it to you like a child. It's crazy. You could actually give it a grade level. Explain quantum theory to me as if I'm in the eighth grade. I'm in the
yeah,
fourth grade. And it'll do it to that education level. And that's not to say that um, one person is more intelligent than the other. It's just that on your own individual level of how you understand and process things, if you're interested in the first place, and you're thinking that there's a barrier of entry, there is no barrier of entry to intellect. It's literally, you ever heard of Cliff Notes or Spark Notes? It's one of those things where you can go look at the Cliff Notes version of the book or whatever, like the synopsis. You can use AI like that, but you
yeah.
can use it in every area of life, not just with specific books. Like you're trying to write a research paper, which you could write a paper. But anyway, I'm
Right.
going off on a tangent, man.
No, yeah, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. Like, yeah, yeah, man, it's incredible what you're able to do if you're willing to, kind of put in the work. And I think that's the biggest thing. Also willing to accept the technology, I think is a big thing. You have some people who are just not yet ready to accept it, but it's here. I mean, and the ones who are willing to accept it I think they're going to get really far ahead in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But hey, Quentin, we only have a few minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience before we go?
Yeah, check out my socials, which are listed as well. And, kind of stay tuned for more information about EcoLife. You can check out our website, ECOLYFE.tech, TECH. We're doing a lot of work with developing countries. Any energy industry experts, we love for you to reach out. Any, partnerships, things of that nature as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we'll have all that information written down in the bio. And I want to thank you all for listening to this episode of Onion Soup. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. I personally still have more questions. So I hope you all have a blessed rest of your day. And as always, bye. And where's the caption thing? There it is. Hey, man, that was really good. We are still recording. But
Uh,
yeah, that was really, really good. I really appreciate it. I have some questions for you. This is uh, speak as freely as you please. One thing I
mhm.
started doing recently was I would have these conversations. We've been doing the show for about 2 years now, and after the show, we would have better conversations. I feel like sometimes than during the show, so I left the recording. Anyway, you were talking about the things you're looking up with space time and quantum theory and the emergence of the universe. What What have you found with that before I ask my next question? And share it. You don't have to share everything. I know you said you want to keep some of it kind of proprietary, but
Yeah, yeah. So I've actually found a lot. I'm actually working with a professor right now on a paper that we want to release for peer review. But as me being a young individual in the academic field, having respect for other academics, I prefer not to get on platforms and kind of speak about the research that I have unless I have a professional or expert with me, just to kind of fill those gaps, if you may be, if that may make sense. But you, with my creativity and the knowledge and research that I have, yeah, I mean, just to kind of touch on one thing that I thought was extremely interesting is the relationship between light and electromagnetism. So electromagnetism at the fundamental level, from what I've researched, it's that at the subatomic level, in a sense, it's, I don't want to say non-existent, but um and that's why I say I try to have like a professor here with me, or I don't have my notes in my hand, but kind of to summarize it, because I want to say it's simple, so it's easier to understand. But to kind of summarize, it's just at the fundamental level, electromagnetism acts very weirdly with this interaction with like photons and light, you know. So there's some relationship there that we might not understand, you know, and things of that nature. I think the key to all of this is like, as you know, the greatest physicists have always said, is light and energy. You know, like it's just like that's like the basis of everything. So being able to understand those concepts and figure those things out, I think that will also lead to more breakthroughs and things of that nature. You know, because as we get into like the Elon Musk's of the world who want to explore the space in the stars, we're gonna have to understand the fundamental concepts of space time and things like that even more. And that's why researchers are becoming more and more important. I think that it's very, very clear today that if you're an amazing researcher, you're going to get very far because these tools are technologists, you know, so they're able to build, but you have to have the mind to kind of build for it, if that makes any sense. So, yeah. That's I try not to go too in depth, you know, but I will like you can check out our paper that we release soon. I'm doing a lot of work with the company, but I'm also trying to finish the peer review paper and my part of it as well. And then when I check in with my professor, but yeah, I mean, I would love to send that over to you, or maybe we even do another episode. I do plan on like promoting this. So we actually have a partnership right now with one of the countries, prime ministers of another country. So once we do a press release, I kind of wanted this interview to be, you know, like a sense of content as well, if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, for sure, Henderson. We love all the press. It's interesting because you touched on a couple of things that I was going to ask. I try not to dive too deeply into the physics of things because I don't want to lose too many people, primarily the person I'm talking to.
Right.
But you touched on something that I asked my professor back when I was working on my biochem degree, and electrons didn't seem real to me after I understood or started to have a deeper understanding of subatomic particles on the quantum level. I was like, hold on, like what of these things is adding up? And then I think maybe a year or so ago, it was like Neil deGrasse Tyson or something like that. It was on his show or he's on somebody else's show. They were talking about electrons themselves, and obviously they're real, like they exist. Like that's not what I'm saying, but when you look at the fact that you can't know the position and quantify it at the same time, and then as you zoom in further, they start getting broken up into subatomic particles, get broken up into like quarks and like these different leptons and stuff like that. It's like, at what point do these particles at what point do these particles stop being able to be broken down further or quantized smaller? And is it just a limitation of our own instruments and understanding? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Wow. If you could possibly put this in, that would be great because I actually had this conversation with a genius mathematician. I mean, that guy's he's a little quirky, but he's from Kennesaw State. His name is crap, I can't even think of his name right now. I'm so sorry. Dr. Mavlov from Kennesaw State. He's a great professor, and he spoke. I don't know if you could keep his name in there, but maybe you can. I don't think he'll mind, but we had a conversation literally about that, and basically what he told me is that our limitations are our calculations, and then as we continue to become more precise with our results, we just start to realize that we can get more precise. So and I think that kind of, in a sense, I mean, because as humans, I think that we have a problem with understanding just what infinity actually is, you know.
Bro.
So it's like infinity, right? It's like there is a possibility that our instruments, as they improve, they're just going to continue to find more and more things, and it's just never going to stop. And you know, like that's what infinity means. You know, it's like it's just this continuous thing, and we just have to continue to improve, and we find more and more and more. And maybe I'm wrong, you know, of course, but I think that the kind of the patterns that we see in the macro world, you know, there are some relationships there in the subatomic and micro world as well.
So when we talk about infinity and I remember having a conversation with my friend, one of my friends. He's a mathematician and currently working on his MD PhD, and we were talking about the different theories and concepts behind or around infinity. And I'm also a philosopher, so I was talking about Schrodinger's cat,
Mm,
and
my
when
favorite
you
theory.
take right,
That's
it's so
my favorite
fascinating.
theory. Yeah.
And I'm like, so if we took an apple, you know, and put it into a box that it could exist for all of time and all of infinity, it the apple, the contents inside of the box, we don't know what's going on. So it has infinitely different possibilities. And at one point, when you open it back up, it could be literally anything. With that being said, and it can go through every possibility, does that mean that infinity at some point is finite in a sense that it's more like a loop?
Mm,
Because it'll start as an apple and eventually it'll quote unquote end as an apple.
yeah. That's a great theory. I've actually never heard of that, but that makes a lot of sense. Um, and you have your theories about things like that, but no, that makes a lot of sense. Is that this continuous thing? But maybe we see it starts to get repetitive, and things like that. And, maybe that has to do with like your limitations, your universe limitations. So you go to like and that has to do with like being different universes and things of that nature. And maybe it's different in another universe, or with parallel universes and multiple universes, if we're ever able to make sense of that. But yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point to touch on. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about parallel universes. Before I go deeper into this, I don't have a PhD in particle physics or anything like that.
Right.
It's more of it's a personal interest.
Well,
But
all the breakthroughs were done by people who don't have PhDs, so it's all. But
thank you
like,
for saying that. I
the
agree.
the ones that we people talk about, of course there's the little breakthroughs, but the big ones that everybody's always talking about, they never had a PhD when they did it. So
No, 100% agree with that. One of my big things that I tell people is in order to truly not just believe, but know that you can create something, you have to be crazy. Because anything that you create, anything that exists that we see in our world or in our reality was once a thought in someone else's head. And
right.
before that thought was manifest into our reality, that person was crazy, because it didn't exist. But as you were talking about multiversal theory, I like to lean towards the Copenhagen interpretation of the multiverse.
Mm, mm,
And it basically I'm going to oversimplify it, but basically it's talking about how one decision creates a different universe. And in order to have something become manifest, you have to um, you basically have to collapse the wave function. If you know what a
mm,
wave function is, you have to collapse
mhm.
that wave function, and you collapse that wave function by focusing on it.
Every
And
day we're collecting wave functions.
yeah,
I believe that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then like by observing it, and observation doesn't necessarily mean that you're observing with your eyes. Observation can also mean measurement and things like that. But simply by observing it, you slowly get closer to an actualized answer, a pinpoint finite answer. So bringing all that back around to your research with space time, and then we're talking about infinity and stuff like that. Our modern day understanding of time is that time is linear, but it seems as if time itself doesn't behave that way. That's just how we experience life, right? For the most part. What are your thoughts before I go deeper into the next half of that? What are your thoughts on our lives while we experience them in a linear fashion? Perhaps time is not being explained, I guess, in the best, or it doesn't behave according to our understanding.
Of course. So I want to say this, and I am 100% positive, or 99.9% positive of this, but there's nobody on the planet right now who actually understands what time actually is. Um, yeah, so that's quite obvious. Anybody who says otherwise is they, even if they have a PhD, that's quite obvious. Because if they did understand time, I personally believe that the understanding the concept of time might be like the most important breakthrough ever. Like, because I mean, time is literally, personally, I do think that it is emergent. Well, I'm starting to believe that. But like time controls everything, but it's space time, right? So it's with Einstein's, general relativity is space time now, the curvature of space time. But just like he debunked, Newton, or he didn't debunk, but kind of refined his thoughts. I'm pretty sure there's someone out there that will also refine, at least one day, refine Einstein's thoughts, and I'm pretty sure there's something that we can build off of that. But like you said, yeah, man, time is just so it's extremely fascinating. And like you said, as of right now, we're believing that time behaves linear. Um, there's a lot of theories out there that think otherwise, and I kind of, in a sense, agree with that. But being able to understand time is also being able to understand space, at least as of right now. So that's a really, really tough concept to get into when we're talking about space time, because there's so many unknowns there. Yeah.
So, from my perspective, and again, I could be 100% wrong. It seems as if all objects that, from our understanding of mass, that all objects that have mass carry its own relativity.
Mhm.
Right, so there's the relative curve around all objects. All things have some type of gravitational mass. Whether or not they're perceptible to our current measurements, or our current technology, current instruments, to our current instruments is a whole nother story. It's um, insignificant for the most part. Like to say that a human has a gravitational pull, sure,
Yeah,
but it's
I believe
insignificant.
I believe what you're touching on, and excuse me if any PhD experts watch this and I'm a little wrong, but I don't think I am. I've been touching on this also, which is very interesting. I've also been doing a lot of research about that. Um, Kind of like these space-time pockets. I think they call it local geometry. So yeah, that's extremely interesting. I do think there's a big breakthrough. It just in that, like, kind of individual, like the individual system of each, like you said, of each mass, everything that has mass. There's also an individual system with that. I think I was running through a thought about how the rocket, and when rockets go up, and just relative to, or thinking about special relativity relative to the person that's um, on the ground, how is their system, like their, because I'll say, okay, so in physics everything has a system, right?
Mm.
Everything is a system in a sense. So like how their entire system is relative to the system of the person on the ground, not just relative to them within space time, like special relativity, but also in like these local geometry. Like, does that have any effect and things like that? So I think the thought process was when the astronaut goes into space, right? And they're going, let's say if they're going light speed, do the molecules inside of the astronaut also go at that speed? So it's things like that, and like it is extremely interesting. Now, I think the answer for that was special relativity, but I definitely believe that there's more details we could learn about that and things like that.
So I've thought about that before,
Yeah,
and I was wondering, um, when we look at when you say molecules inside the astronaut, I want to look at it from more of a biological standpoint.
yeah,
So if we're looking at the cells and looking at different hormones, are the hormones and cells also being affected by the relative pull of space and the relative gravitational pull, the forces, external forces? Are the
right.
internal forces of the body being affected externally, or is there a way to mitigate or modulate those internal forces? Because we know that you can through meditation. And we
Right.
know that your perception of reality can change, not
Right.
necessarily being induced by anything external, such as like drugs or something like that, but we know that you can change your perception of reality. People do it all the time when they experience death or something like that. They talk about time slowing down or things
Mhm.
speeding up.
Right.
What does
Right.
that mean to the internal functions? And if that's the case and things are if you can regulate that, right? Say the astronaut was a master meditation meditator and knew how to regulate their internal functions. Would you be able to make certain decisions at a like astronomically fast pace relative to other people?
Mm.
So the rocket itself is already moving really quickly, right? And then your internal functions, in theory, should be moving at or around the same speed of said rocket. But
Mm.
if you need to make a split second decision, could you slow down your internal processes to slow down the way that you relatively experience time? And if you can do that in something that's moving that fast, doesn't that mean you can do that in all aspects and areas of life?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, that's getting into very complex philosophical things, also with things that just are not proven yet. But yeah, 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 I totally agree. Like, I've been doing a lot of research, and I always cross check everything I do with my professors and things like that. Because you want to make sure you're not hallucinating yourself, kind of just making things up. But yeah, 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 man, I think there's a big connection between like the subatomic world and neuroscience. I think there's an extremely big connection there. I think being able to understand the micro world will also help us understand the human brain as well and consciousness. I think consciousness is so fascinating that being able to advance science and learn more about the universe, I think that we may possibly learn more about like consciousness, because like you said, the neurons, how are they moving when you're going at this speed and things of that nature? Is it the same? Is there, what effect is that having on your cells and things of that? And it's like, so there's so much to go into that. But yeah, man, I totally agree. Like that's a very, very interesting topic to touch on.
Yeah, I find consciousness really fascinating. Originally, I was going to go get a PhD in neuroscience just because I
Mm,
find it all fascinating, but I stopped with the biochem degree. I wanted to go back to something that we were talking about earlier with the curvature of space. And there's something that I've always found fascinating. Have you ever heard of the cubiad curve?
yeah. Yes. Yes.
So the Cubiad curve or Cubiad, I'm probably like butchering the name. Anyway, it's talking about being able to move move through space utilizing the curvature of space itself, and you manipulate. I don't really want to say manipulate. You work with or coincide with the time in said space. So as an object moves from point A to point B, or whatever, right? And it moves through what we know of as space. That difference or the time it takes from object to get from A to B, that's the calculus, right? So that's the time it takes to get from A to B. What if you could move with the way that the space itself curves? What if you could somehow bounce off of um let's not say bounce off of create repelling forces to the I'm trying not to get that. I'll just say it like create repelling forces to like the weak nuclear forces that are around every object, right? Because that's ultimately how like the von Willebrand's forces work. So if you could do that, this is like kind of the premise behind that cubic curve, and I'm not a physicist or anything, but if you could do that and move with space time, move in between space time with these curves, doesn't that mean you could ultimately traverse larger areas, larger sections of space? If you could carry your own space around you.
Mm.
I didn't really ask that very well. But it's still a thought I'm working on, so I haven't really formulated a way to ask other people.
Yeah, no, no, no. I totally understand what you're saying. Great quote by Albert Einstein is when you're trying to understand something, if you really understand it, if you're able to break it down, like you said, like AI, break it down as a 2 year old. So as you're still understanding that, I'm pretty sure that'll come to you. But I understand that it's making you're able to understand that concept in your head a little more. Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying. But I
You
kind
know,
of was able I kind of was able to pick up on what you're saying, and no, yeah, yeah, I haven't done much research on that in a sense, so I'm a little new to those concepts, but I definitely like the thought processes. Yeah,
it's funny. Confucius would say the same thing. Confucius would say that if you truly understood your topic, you'd be able to explain it both to a child and to a peer. But
yeah,
until you are able to explain it on those levels, don't try to teach it to anybody.
right, right.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Hey, this has been a great conversation. One of these days, we're gonna have to like really sit down and like have lunch or dinner or something. It just,
Man, yeah, yeah. My life is a little crazy right now, but
bro,
definitely,
same.
we definitely have to link, man. I love the conversations that we have, and like the like mindedness and stuff like that, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm usually in Atlanta like around the holidays. That's where I'm from originally. So
Hmm.
like usually I'm there around the holidays. But
Yeah, I remember you
if you
saying you're in Phoenix, right?
yeah, I'm in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So I mean if you ever happen if I have to hit you up next time I'm out there and if you happen to be free, yeah, we should just
Yeah,
hang
yeah.
out for an evening, man.
Of course, of course, of course. Yeah, I'm more open to it. And also, as we work with each other, I also don't mind, as I progress in my field and we, continue to maybe do these, meetings or interviews and things like that. Because a big thing with our company is we really want to be able to push out content and stuff like that. So being able to have more and more content for people to see, to interact with our company and things like that is amazing. So, these conversations will be great. And then a great thing is too, as I progress in my field, um, these interviews will have more merit because then people, once you're actually doing something and making results, then people are actually going to, care. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, 100% get that. I did have one more question for you, and this isn't philosophy or science,
Mhm.
but where do you see? I should have asked this while we were recording the actual show. Where do you see the future of your company? Do you have like a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year?
Yeah, yeah. So in 1 year, I mean, as of right now, at least, and things can change quickly, but as of right now, at least we're on track to do, 1 million in revenue by the end of the year. So hopefully we get there. My life, of course, will be totally different. And then a year from now, um, honestly, we're going so fast. Like we have partnerships with multiple international countries right now in the last 6 or 7 months. So in the next 6 or 7 months, I don't even know how fast we'll be going, but in the next 10 years, the vision should be something where it's like we're making this software that enables the grid, right? Like automates in a sense automates the grid, but there's some hardware complications, but I think there's some room there. They not even think they're in the energy industry. There's a lot of room for innovation. So that's why like young people like me come in because we might not have 100% expertise, but we're able to kind of look at things from a different perspective and have like creative solutions like that. So I do believe that's the route in which we're going, and we've seen other competitors try, like even though they might not be a direct competitor, like a DeepSeek from China. They're very big on renewable energy right now. I think I just read something that said by 2030 they'll be pulling more power from the sun than the whole U.S. will be generating.
Mm.
So like they're trying to go the smart home route where they're making homes efficient autonomously. Like, they're automating literally like home electricity. They're like syncing with smart IoT devices and things of that nature. So, in a sense, that's where we're going, but we're not just Ecolife's the smart grid. As we scale and we become a big company, we want to be that brand, that global sustainability brand. Like when you think of sustainability, when you think of helping the planet, we want to think of Ecolife. Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Interesting. I'll keep that in mind. I have some. There's some things that I'm working on that aren't this podcast, but they're a little bit more energy focused and looking at doing it from a very um, eco friendly perspective. So, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's
I have a lot of connections in the energy industry, surprisingly now. So yeah, man, just I can always cross check any of that information with these experts and and things of that nature. So yeah, yeah.
okay, cool, cool. I might have to reach out because there are a couple of technologies that if I had $10 million, like I feel like I could really sit down with a few experts and be like, hey, I think we should build this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we have to get there. Hey, man, I truly appreciate your time today. I don't want to take up too much more of your day. I know you're a busy
No,
man.
no, no problem. I apologize for the other meetings kind of going astray. I have I do have a lot going on, even though that's no excuse. Sometimes it'll slip my mind. Even I'll have it in my notes, in my to do and stuff, and still sometimes it'll either slip my mind or something will come up and I can't meet. So I apologize about that. But I always try to make sure I'm on time and I'm not wasting anybody's time, no matter where I'm at in life, what position I may have. I try to respect. So
Yeah,
I
man. Yeah, no worries. To be completely transparent with you, the reason why I do Saturday shows is I know I'm busy as well, during the week. And I've met so many people. I talk to people around the world all the time, all day, every day.
right.
And a lot of people are, new budding entrepreneurs. And the thing about being new, you're busy. Like I don't think people know the type of work that goes into this, but you're busy,
Yeah.
and it's helpful to most people, especially I've noticed the more successful people tend not to work on weekends. So I just open the day up. Like I'm not really doing anything else for the rest of the day, so this is it. But, yeah, I totally get it, bro. No, I'm good. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. This has been great. I really want to have more conversations with you because it's not often I can talk to somebody that's gonna understand where my
Yeah.
mind is going.
Totally, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love having conversations with intellectual people. Like, we were just in the Georgia Tech program. Oh, if you want to put this in there, we were just in the Georgia Tech program, and it's a program basically of the most brightest minds, in this public Ivy, and they're like it's just very fascinating individuals, and all think differently and creatively, and kind of chasing this creation, this technology that they've created. So like you have these conversations every day or at least every time you guys meet. And I think that personally, and I think there are even research papers on this that I've read that say like just talking to other people that are extremely intellectual makes you smarter, like having those
Mhm.
conversations. So it's always great, always intriguing. I always love to do that. You don't get to do it
Yeah.
every day.
I'm gonna let you go for it, man. I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I was like, "Hey, from the time that you've known me and to now, when we first started meeting, when we first started hanging out, do you feel like your intellect has grown?" And he was like, "Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
actually." He was like,
Yeah.
"Just sitting around and talking to you and your friends." He's like, "You guys," he's like, "the stuff y'all
It's,
talk about." He's like, he has to go back and research stuff later. Like he's like in the conversation, he's like, "Yeah, sure," and then later has to go research. I'm like, "Oh." I was just curious, you know.
yeah.
'Cause I mean, not all my friends are like scientists and like professionals and stuff like that. I mean,
Hmm.
I hang out with like quote unquote normal people as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just interesting. It's very fast. I love to read a paper or a study about how having those conversations really do just improve your own awareness and intellect. I think it's like that in every field, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, and that's why I even try to force myself into those rooms. Like when I started my company, extremely introverted. I mean, like when I think when we first talked the last time, I mean, I was working on something else and um just kind of having to force myself to like go into these rooms and speak to these highly intellectual people. And I think a big thing with that is not being afraid to sound stupid. Like there's times where you're gonna sound stupid and they might laugh, right? But you have to trust the process. You trust that you're getting smarter, and if you put the work in, you even surpass some people. So I think it's fascinating just being able to kind of conversate with those other intellectual individuals. It's
Yeah.
very impactful. Yeah.
100% agree with that, man. Trying to put yourself into those rooms and, like you said, getting there. sounding dumb, being okay with it as much okay with it as you can be, you
Yeah.
know. But you gotta have it. But one thing I've learned, or at least through experience, found out these people they're so much nicer than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
And for the most part, people they're excited to see you in there, and they're correcting you, but not in like a rude or disrespectful way.
Well, I think like the clean tech space, I think the big thing is that like most people don't care and they're more bored about it. So when they see new faces, it makes you feel like, oh, my profession matters, because people are caring about it. And, you have these young people who are trying to go into the space. Because a lot of academic spaces, and, hopefully as an academic myself, and kind of just I've learned as of late still being an academic, but also still being myself. So trying to merge, my personality with my academic field. Hopefully we go into a future where the academia world is more interesting, like with AI and things like that, and people having more access to information and knowledge. We go into a world where people are more interested in these industries and things like that. And I think, a big thing like that is these or the experts and I'm becoming an expert, so one day I can't say that, but the experts love to see new faces because it makes them feel like they're doing something right, So I think that's really cool.
Do you ever find academia to be limiting?
Always, I think that a lot of quote unquote experts limit not only themselves, they try to limit others because of their own limitations. And since they feel like they hold this spot, it's like, oh, if I'm limited, then you must be limited as well. And that's not true. If you see a new face, I mean, their talent, the sky's the limit. Like they might have a talent that you just didn't have, and it's just the way it is. So I do feel academia to be limiting, but I mean, I work really hard. I try to pursue academia as much as I can, and hopefully, you know, pe- as I continue to, work on my company and things like that, and also be myself. Hopefully, more and more people see that, there are no limitations. Like why try to limit in academia? I have a professor. He's talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson's quote. It's like, if you're not making mistakes, be sure that you're not on the frontier. So like you're not pushing academia to its limits. Like, so if you're not making mistakes, if you're not sounding stupid, you're probably not going to have any like new breakthroughs because you're kind of like staying in your comfort zone. Um, and that's like, I mean, even I mean, like, I like to look at and take example from, the guys who everybody looks up to. And I mean, even those guys say the same thing. It's just like everybody is going to think you're stupid until you're not, and
You're not.
I mean, that's like I think that's the most amazing thing about it though, because it's like, wow, like, how did you know? Like, so yeah, academia is very limiting at least right now. But I think AI and stuff like that is really going to change that. I think, especially my generation, like Gen Z, like being at Georgia Tech and seeing some of my generation, like a lot of the freshmen, coming up to me as a senior and like, bro, like you, or, graduate, and they're like, you're so cool, man. Like, you have this like company and this and that. It's just like they were so, and they, of course, they're Georgia, or Tech public Ivy students, but they're just so interested in this. But they also, if you see them, they also have something different about them, right? It's like it's not the normal academia that they bring, like their style and the way in which they dress. It's like they're not afraid to express themselves, but still be on the academia front. I think maybe in the past, it's like if you're in academia, you have to act a certain way or you have to express yourself in a certain way, and then you have to limit other things. But I think that may even limit your potential too if you're, like I said, because I found that being myself helps me thrive more. So, if you're trying to stay in this bubble, that may even be limiting like your potential as well. So yeah. I'm very excited about the future and AI and like how the new generations are going to use it. And, I mean, like we're in a time where a 13-year-old could probably have a scientific breakthrough, because they're able to just sit at home and just write and read and, do research. So it's cool. It's cool. It's really cool. It's a really cool time that we're living in.
It is, man. I 100% agree with you. I love the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I wish that AI was a thing when I was a kid, because
Yeah.
some of the stuff I used to think about as a kid, and like you said, it's being okay with being wrong. And I think we give so much more grace to children. If a child
Yeah.
asks a off the wall question, we're like, that's a little bit silly, but whatever. But we oftentimes don't extend that same level of grace, to adults. But yeah, man, it's crazy. I'm excited as well. But hey, seriously, I'll let you go, Mr. Quentin.
Problem, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always great conversation. I love great conversations. Like I said, yeah, we gotta like link one time. Just let me know, and then I can try to force some time in there. Even if it's like an hour or two, man. That's great to
Yeah.
kind of meet and talk, and maybe even explore ideas and things. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure our paths will cross, sometime in the future, just where you're
yeah,
headed and where we're going with things. I'm confident that even if we didn't sit down for dinner, well, our paths will cross. It's just natural,
right.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your weekend. Let's see, this episode will post. How soon do you need content? Because we're about a month ahead. So this episode won't post until about a month. But if you need content, I
That's
can
actually
get
kind
it
of
edited.
perfect because I'm still trying to understand when the press release and things are going to happen, things like that. Because if they delay the process, I kind of do want to delay this as well. Because the one thing I've been learning about content and like the algorithms and stuff like that is like is really good to kind of hit content like back to back to back. So
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do is kind of have those rollouts in a sense with content. So we want to have the press release and then have the interviews, and so stuff like that. So I'm working with a networking team and things that. So once that kind of, I'll communicate with you, but we really want to kind of push that, and then they'll be doing like their promotional expertise on the video as well and things like that. So yeah.
Do you have like a marketing team as well that you have?
Yeah, yeah, man. So I mean, I've been contacted by like some marketing teams like Fortune 500 companies, like
Mhm.
marketing companies and things. So if you're ever looking for like any type of marketing or you need anybody like in the marketing space, I could always reach out. Like I'm always open to giving any connections that I might have because when I was first getting started, people being nice to just give me those connections was so like they could have been, they could have told me, hey, we're no, but being able to do that was amazing. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I have a buddy who has a this international marketing company. So
Mm.
yeah, but you sound good. So you're fine. Yeah, you're
Well,
fine.
you
That's
say he's
that's
an international marketer?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I mean, I'm always open to working, so if you can send his information and stuff like that, I would love to check him out.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send it to you in an email. Really a guy. He helps me out with pretty much everything. We have the best conversations, honestly. He's a really, really intelligent young man. He's very young. So, I say very young. Maybe I'm just like older, but yeah, he's a young man and he has this marketing company that he built from literally nothing to it's huge.
Is he like
Yeah.
18, 19 or something like that? Yeah.
He's 20.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But he got started when he was 17, I think.
yeah.
And when I met him, he had just turned 18.
Mm,
Yeah. So he's been doing it for about 2 years. I actually met him through the show. Right when we got started with this show, he was actually a keynote speaker at this conference I had gone to.
mm,
And we had met like 2 or 3 weeks before the conference online through some Zoom connection thing with these companies. And I didn't find out he was going until like a week or two before that. And he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna be at the conference. Like, let's just chat and hang out." He lives in Canada, and I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, let's meet up." I didn't realize that he was like, no, he knew everybody. Young people, like you said, people get so excited with the fresh face, and so he knows pretty much everybody in every
mm,
industry and all the scenes, and he's
mm-hmm.
always like traveling. But yeah, his business does really good. So yeah, if you need like an international marketer, like
Oh,
he's definitely the guy to talk to.
Okay, yeah, I'm always interested in working with more people, and we do a lot of work internationally too, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, I'll let you go, man. I appreciate it. I'll send you an email with Sam. That's his name. His name is Sam. So I'll send you an email to Sam, and I'll also let you know when we post this episode. I truly appreciate your time. This has been a great conversation. And yeah, it's cool. I just want to keep talking to you, so I'll try to stop talking. You know what I mean? Because
I know how that feels. You gotta love these intellectual conversations, man. But yeah, I'm gonna get going, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
yeah, I appreciate it. Have a great one. Talk to you later.
You too.